bunch, and somebody would not be very happy with me. So I didn't dig as much as I wanted to, but I'm going to kind of lead you to the buffet, and then it'll be up to you all to go ahead and play it with it, test it out, try it on a little bit. He's actually having shoulder surgery. That's very hard for me to say. I don't know why. Go ahead and try it. It always comes out
Shoulder surgery.
Shoulder.
soldier is how what first comes out. But it's shoulder surgery. Shoulder. Anyway,
It's a tongue
he's
twister.
getting a big cut right here.
Yeah.
And they're going to do a joint reversal, which is a little mind-blowing. Some people know about it, some people don't. Where you've got your ball and socket, and they're going to flip it around and do it the other way. So it's a little crazy sounding, but it uses your own tissues rather than introducing a foreign object into your body, and has a greater success rate of, being able to have more mobility and all of that. He's done, so this is the stroke for a paddleboard, right? And as an epic paddleboard racer, he's done too many of those. His orthopedic said, your body has a certain number of repetitions. And just like with a car or any other mechanical thing, once it hits those number of repetitions, you don't get that many more. And so he had put off the surgery because at the time when they first started talking about it, the technique was not advanced enough to allow him to be able to do what he wants to do. And now it is. And so now they're telling him that after he recovers, he could go full on back to the paddling level he used to at 65. He's been cycling instead, but in the meantime, then we were going to have 6 weeks of one arm use. And so that got me thinking about accessibility and adaptability of our devices. And so I started digging in. So I'm going to start with his iPad here. Let me unlock it. Thank you very much. Oh, don't do that to me. Use passcode. Oh, now it's not liking me. There we go. Okay, so going into your settings, then you go down just below general, and this is on iPhones. So Carlene is literally the only person this isn't going to apply to right now, but Carlene has an iPad, so it's same for that. That's what I'm looking at, as an iPad. You go to accessibility. When you get to the accessibility menu, it's huge, just absolutely huge. I'm quite impressed. And so that's why I was saying this is literally a two-class conversation. At the top, so it says accessibility improves features for vision, mobility, hearing, speech, and cognition. And then there's a learn more. You can tap on the learn more, and there's a whole article that's not nearly as in depth as what there is. But each one of these, so it talks about vision. There's a little blurb, and it says learn more about accessibility features for vision, mobility, hearing, speech, cognitive, which I find interesting. So, we think about as we age, or even temporary situations like my husband's surgery, where we are not going to have full ability of parts of our body. Our hearing tends to get challenged as we get older. Our sight tends to get challenged. Our ability to feel. So all of these things that we have are touch activated. And so I got to thinking about people that, many people that have smartphones. I don't know why, but they think that if they stab it harder, it will do what they want it to do. And these are very actually delicate instruments that require like the touch on a baby's skin. Think about, you would never stab a baby the way I was just stabbing the back of my phone. And this screen here is very sensitive. Joyce.
Okay, so I have that issue also, and I sometimes wonder if it isn't because I have a screen protector. I mean, not having a screen protector is a dangerous thing, but does having a screen protector make it more difficult for the.
Possibly, but I think not. I don't know why. Because I have a very thick screen protector, always have, because I'm dangerous with these devices. But I am barely touching it, and you can see I'm moving it. I mean, barely, barely, barely touching it. But here's the nice part. That's why we're talking about this, is because you can change the sensitivity settings on it on your phone. So if you find that it does require a firmer touch, we change the settings and adapt it to your style. Um, but I didn't realize when I was looking into all of the settings that he has on his iPad, that there's also cognitive settings. Um, it says it can help you or someone you care for use an iPad with greater independence. Um, Helps with a simplified interface for someone with a cognitive disability, or temporary lock one app when you let a child use it. So both ends of the spectrum. You have somebody that you're caregiving for who has early dementia and is struggling with remembering what you tell them, or being able to repeat new behaviors, new techniques. They can tell you all about their 57 Chevy they bought, when they were, 25, but they can't remember what you just told them to do. Those kinds of memory declines that we tend to have. So in the iWorld, the Apple world, there is cognitive ability settings as well. So I found that rather interesting, and there's a whole article about that. So that's at the very, very top, when you just hit accessibility and then learn more. Lots and lots to go through there. But then you start looking at what we have for settings, starting with vision is at the top of the list on here. And it may be slightly different on an iPhone than it is on an iPad. I know sometimes they order them slightly different, but I'm hoping they're the same. So excuse me if I'm slightly out of order on this one. Starting out with vision, we talk about we've got voiceovers, zooming, hover text. It's very common for us to think about display and text size. How many people have changed the text size on their device?
Yeah, I have.
So if you find yourself being frustrated or having to grab your reading glasses all the time, and because you can't read the text, and we've talked about this in the past, it's interesting to me, and slightly ageist, that one of my favorite local newspapers, digital version, their print is almost gray. It's not black. It's a softer color, and it's what I would call wispy, which is probably not fair, but um those are my eyes seeing it, right? So I'm going to show you an article, and hopefully it'll come through where you can see it. But see if I can get it's just
Yeah.
not high contrast.
Mhm.
It's just, it looks like a thinner font. It is, the font they're using isn't Arial or Times New Roman or something very bold. It's a thin font. And so I get a little frustrated, because that means that, so here's my screen. When I blow it up, so that it's large enough for me to see, now I have to read an article by going up and down and back and forth. But I can change the font on my phone where the text size is different. And so it's literally going to fit it within the confines of my phone. Now, it can look very silly in terms of, I can make it quite large where the column, just gets a couple of words long, which is kind of annoying as well. Which I guess is why there are many times I just prefer print. I asked somebody who was going to the library today to pick me up a copy of that paper because I want to read the article and just hold it. So we do have that. But that being said, display and text size is very easy to change. I didn't realize how many options that Apple has for motion changes. And I had to think about that a minute. It's like, what are we talking about here? So reduce the motion of the user interface, including the parallax effects of icons. And I went, huh? I know, exactly. Like, what? Well, apparently there are some features in some, whether it's a specific website who designs it that way or a specific app who designs it that way. But when you're looking at, and we're just going to use the smaller one because it's easier to hold, different device entirely, but where icons can tend to look more 3D. The graphic of them is 3D. And I know that this shows up in some pictures sometimes where when you turn your device slightly, it changes the angle of where you're looking at the picture. So that was taken with this very specific feature on the camera so that you could rotate this and look around the room, for instance. If you're looking at real estate, they have look at the 3D photo. If you go to Google Maps and you can move it so you're looking at street view and it's literally the camera is going, you can look on both sides of the street and up and down. So that's what parallax effects is that 3D view, which can make people feel dizzy. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. So that's a pretty nice feature. If you suffer any kind of motion issues, I have been car sick since the day I was born. And I'm a huge believer in taking motion medicine. Having worked on a boat for nearly 10 years, the pharmacist at CVS was like, you can buy Bonine in larger quantities, right? Because I was buying, a couple of boxes a week. I'm like, what do you mean? And she said, well, I've got 100-pill bottle here. And I went, oh, because I was going through it like crazy. I mean, I never, ever, working on a boat every single day, never got over being seasick. And if I didn't take that. So, here we are. You can change on your devices. We've got vehicle motion cues. Right now they're off, but it says dots appear near the edges of your iPad screen. They follow the movement of the vehicle and may help reduce motion sickness. So if you are a passenger in a car and you like to use your iPad for entertainment as you're going along, you can put vehicle motion cues on to reduce the possibility if you tend to feel a little bit queasy if you're reading while you're in the car. And then there's a learn more, and then there's new in motion cues. So apparently this is like a thing, a huge thing of being able to reduce that. Then
Where,
we also,
Betsy,
Yeah.
where are you finding that under cognitive?
nope, I'm still in vision. I am still in
you're
vision. I
in
haven't gotten
vision.
anywhere down there. Yep. So
Oh, I'm
in
sorry. Okay.
accessibility, and
Yeah.
then the first block is vision.
Vision. Okay.
And then 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth one down is motion. It's got a green
Okay.
icon.
Thank you.
And then we've got read and speak, accessibility reader, being able to, you can have everything on the screen read to you. You can have just specific things when you want it to be read to you using various gestures, motions, two fingers, so many different settings. So if you have, or someone has hearing issues, or if you know someone who's deaf, they adapt their entire device to give them what they need, or someone who is blind, or someone who is losing their vision. I'm trying to remember who it was that in the Joy Center who was losing their vision and taking advantage of the Lighthouse Foundation in Miami, where they have
Yeah.
a huge, who was that? Huge resources for people who are losing their vision or who are sightless. And it's a national foundation, and they help people deal with losing their vision and teaching them and training them all of these things. So, oh gosh, it was a person whose vision was narrowing. I can't believe I can't remember her
Trying to
name.
remember. I can picture
It
her.
was a woman, but it's like her peripheral started to go, and then it started to go, and then it started to go, and then eventually she was down to pinpoint vision, and so legally blind. But imagine how difficult it is to use your devices if you have that kind of vision, and so you can choose how your device helps you with those kind of, because we think these are visual tools, right? These are so visual. So why not turn it into something that you can use for blind people? And lots of options in read and speak, and then audio descriptions will describe, and that would be for someone who is completely blind, where you've got a picture that shows up and it'll say, there's a picture of a woman sitting on a bench by the ocean, admiring the sunset with the wind blowing her blonde hair, and and it goes on and on and on, of a visual description of the picture that's there for people who have sight issues. Then we go down physical and motor. This one was very interesting to me because we've got so much choice. So assistive touch is the first one. That's on the top. And it says, if you have difficulty touching the screen, or if you require an adaptive accessory. So, we tend to think of, the pens that have the little rubber end as something that we can use as a tool. But maybe it's somebody who doesn't have use of their arms. My friend that I took care of on Plantation Key, who had muscular dystrophy, he had the use of a pinky and from the neck up, and he was 40 something years old. He would use this, a very long one, and touch his screen this way. So, various adaptive devices. And so you can change how touch is. How is touch duration is the first one. And when it's got a little option for a touch duration test. So there's a picture of a flower there. So right now, Scott has it set on default. It could be fast or it could be slow. So I'm going to try and do this because his thing is very slippery. I really need to get a case for this. All right. So if I touch this flower and hold it just for a little bit, it gets bigger. If I hold it a little bit more, try and do it backwards, it got even bigger. So the default was rather slow. Notice that it was very slow. Now to get out of it, I just touch somewhere else. So this is the test for it. Touched it, and there it was a little bit faster. So I don't have to press and hold. I can just maybe doing it backwards, trying to find it. It's like playing in the mirror here. Now it's gone. You've played this game too many times. I don't know why it's not doing it now. Might have to go back out of it. All right, try it again. Touch. Oh, see, now it's like you're playing with it now. It's not doing it. But I've done that. That's like the fourth time I've done that this morning of testing how it is. Oh, no, it says touch and hold the image to test the touch duration. Okay, so it did. I can't read backwards. I can't read and play with it backwards. So he's got it on default, but I could make it go slower. Maybe if my motor coordination was slower, then I would need a slower reaction. Or if I, you know, have a little bit faster ability and I'm impatient, I make it happen faster. So I can change those settings. Touch accommodations. If you're having trouble touching the screen, adjusting how the screen responds to touches. And that's the one I was talking about for Joyce. It's the second one down underneath. I'm sorry, it's the third one down under haptic touch. And haptic touch is the feedback that you get from a touch. So I tend to have most of the sounds off on my phone because I'm in places where I don't need the sound of any kind of notification. So I have haptic touch on so that when I touch my phone, it gives me just a tiny little vibration as an acknowledgement of what I did is real. So when I do a chat and I'm in text and I start texting each time, and it's very, very subtle. I'm just, as I'm speaking of it, figuring out it's a very subtle little response to the touch. I don't know how else to describe it, but I like having that because I know that I hit it and I know that it happened, and getting used to it didn't take long. Some people have the sounds, and some phones or devices come with the device sound on for when you've hit something on the keyboard or hit something on an icon or click something. And it's like, you don't need a sound every time. But knowing that that response was accepted and taken by the device somehow helps me. So then we go to touch accommodations, and that's where I was talking with Joyce about setting how much response it gives to your touch. You might want to increase it. So it says you can change how fast it responds, the duration of the hold, ignoring repeats, and then there's touch assistance. Use initial touch location, use final touch location. Enable assistance to allow single finger gesture to perform a tap. So there's all of that. But then we also have things where you can use gestures where you don't literally have to touch it. Now, I don't like gestures because I talk with my hands so much that my devices would just be crazy. But if you're not a hand talker, then gestures might be something easier for you where you just make a movement and it does what you want. We have things like tap to wake, shake to undo, prevent lock to end call, call audio routing, determines where the audio can be heard during a phone call or FaceTime audio. So how many people have their iPads connected to their phones where your iPad can take a call as well? And it rings in both places. Yeah. So you can change that if you want it or not want it. You can say that it's only going to come on FaceTime or it's only going to come on this device. And then we've got single touch actions instead of sliding actions. Some people really prefer the slide. Some people like the slide or the swipe to make things happen. I don't. My husband does. Something for everyone. It's wonderful. You have lots and lots of choice and figuring out what it is that works best for you and your style. But knowing that you have choice and knowing that whatever it is that you're struggling with, there's probably a setting for that, and that's the most amazing part. Now we're going to talk about, and I can't see Carlene on here. Hang on one second. Carlene's still muted and no picture. So she'll chime in if she wants something. Terry.
When first came out with iPods, the little circle in the square rectangle with circle in the middle, I had no clue that sometimes I'd be listening to music, walking around, that you turned around a corner and you're walking or something, and it would change the channel, change to the next song or repeat the
Yep.
same song. And it was,
Yeah.
and I think they had it in iPhone. I don't even still in it, but it used to be funny. They could shake to change a song. You could do it on, on
Yeah.
purpose. But, and the other thing about car sickness was I had two older brothers and a cousin that was always with us. And I overcame car sickness by like learning to read because I had to get away from the boys. I could put a towel over me in the corner, you know.
See, now there's two there. I also happened to read, there was a article yesterday in the New York Times that said, is motion sickness preventable? Being a lifelong motion sickness person, I really wanted to see if there was new stuff on it. There is not. There is nothing new under the sun in regards to motion sickness. They still don't honestly know why it happens. They do believe that it is has genetic tendencies. They do say that for cars, for instance, people who suffer from motion sickness don't get motion sick when they're the driver. That control of knowing where you're going and what's happening because you've got your hand on the wheel somehow takes it away, which mystifies scientists and biologists because it's like, how
Maybe
is
because
this
you're looking
possible?
forward, though.
It's a
Maybe because you're looking straight forward, also. You're not, I mean, you are looking to the side.
right, but it's about control.
Okay.
And anybody who suffers motion sickness knows that it's about control. um because when you're driving, having the hand on the wheel, yes, looking forward is one of the recommendations. They said if you have to be the passenger, whether it's on a boat, a plane, um, a train, a car, sit as close to the center as possible. There's less movement in the center as there is on the edges, and be able to look straight ahead at what's happening and not looking off to the side. So, that being said, as a driver, I'm looking all around all the time. I mean, I'm a safe driver. I don't get into wrecks, but I'm kind of always seeing what's happening. I live where there's lots of wildlife, and so I need to make sure that I'm adjusting my driving if there's a herd of deer heading towards me. You've got to go super slow. So I'm always looking off in the fields wherever I'm driving. Not so much kids running around, but definitely lots and lots of wildlife. So, and being where I live on very curvy places, you just get used to having to adapt to this kind of movement all the time. They recommended the two favorites, Dramamine and Bonine. I chose Bonine because it doesn't make me sleepy, and took a lot of it when I was working on boats. But no ill effects from those things. They say that the scopolamine, is that how you pronounce it? The
Yeah.
patch that goes behind the ear tends to have less effects and is a lot of people like that better. It is prescription though, so you've got to get that from your doctor. And last thing on this is that they say that all of the other remedies, including ginger, have no better effect statistically than the placebos. And there's been extensive tests. So now, that being said, we know that the mind is very, very strong. And if you think that it works, it will work for you in many, many cases. But no basis for things like the bracelets and the other things. They said they literally
Chiclets. My mom gave me chiclets. I always, till a few years ago, I always took them on an airplane just because
your mom did.
I
I'll
didn't get
tell you,
airsick.
a lot of people swear by ginger. Now ginger isn't going to stop the motion sickness, but it is a known thing for settling upset stomachs. And so what you're doing is you're treating the symptoms of the motion sickness. You're not stopping the motion sickness. You're making your stomach feel a little bit better. if you don't have it so bad. But anyway, way too much time on motion sickness. Going back, and that was all just touch. Now we get into switch control, and I did not dig in because I don't want to change things that my husband is going to hate that I did, and I want to do this with him. But there is an article that you can tap on where it says learn more, and that literally tells me not much. Basically, it says you can highlight items on the screen that can be activated through an adaptive accessory. So if you're using something that you're pairing with your, and let's see if, and for instance, my first thought would be like hearing aids, but hearing aids is going to be under hearing, but that would be an example, I believe, of an accessory that you would pair with it, or even earbuds. But again, we're talking about hearing.
A little speaker.
Your speakers, but then that's hearing again. This is
Oh.
switch control. I can't even explain it to you because I don't have the device. So switches, one switch should be assigned to select item action to ensure switch control functions correctly. And it says add a new switch. Is it an external switch? Is it a screen switch? Is it a camera switch, sound, or AirPod gestures? Choose a switch source. Some sources may be unavailable. So let's say external. What does it give me? It can be Bluetooth, game controllers, made for iPhone, assistive switch control devices. So there's a whole world of adaptability of which I'm not familiar yet. Screen switches. Use switch control by tapping anywhere on the screen. Camera switch, head gestures, hand gestures. So again, let's say that I break both my arms or break both my hands and I cannot do anything with my hands, but I want to. I can use my voice. I can also use my head to gesture what's happening, which is fantastic. I mean, it's just what an incredible device to help with, limited abilities of things. All right, I'm going to get out of switch control because it's the one I understand the least, but I'm going to tell you it's insanely large of the choices in switch control. Let's see if I can, maybe I can use the holder to, yeah, this might work a little bit better and get this. All right,
Yeah.
so I'm in
Mm.
switch control. This is how long the settings are for switch control. It's enormous, just enormous. So many choices. So, and without digging into it, I would have not known about this. I go, okay, switch control. I don't know what that is. Keep on moving. Voice control. Those make more sense. Using, voice control to say, for my stuff, I would say, hey, Google, turn down the music. Hey, Google, play a song, whatever. Things that you would talk to Siri or Alexa, voice control, those kinds of things. I'm not talking to you. Go away. The whole screen lit up because I said her name, who should not be mentioned. Never mind, Siri. And she went away. Quite frightening. But there are, you can improve your assistive voice features, change your commands, change your vocabulary. You can have feedback, show confirmation, play a sound, show hints, all kinds of things with voice control. You can do eye tracking, where literally all you do is your eyes, you're in a full body cast and you've got the iPad attached to a thing that's hanging over your bed while you're recuperating. You can change things with your eyes. Like, how amazing is that? That's just fantastic. Head tracking. Then of course we get into hearing devices. I'm sure many of you are aware of pairing your hearing aids with your devices. Very, very useful. Until it's not. I have several friends who, have their hearing aids in or don't have their hearing aids in, making a phone call, not making a phone call. Sometimes I think there really ought to be a class just on that, not just here you go, go have fun with it, because people won't explore as much as they should. And I know that hearing aids have come such a long way to smooth the transition between various environments. So if you are new to hearing aids or you haven't explored yours fully, I highly recommend you explore them, because there's lots of choices these days of what yours can do in what situations. Then we've got live captions, subtitles and captioning, name and sound recognition, all kinds of stuff under hearing. And under each one of those, there are a huge list of things that you can switch. We've got speech accessory, speech, live speech, personal voice, and vocal shortcuts. If I go to vocal shortcuts, set up local teach your iPad to recognize a custom phrase to quickly perform an action. So if it's awkward for you to say, hey, your name who won't be said, and you're in a place where every time you say her name, everybody's iPad lights up, you could change it. You could, call her Greta or whatever. You can train her to respond to a different name. So kind of fun. And then we've got keyboards and typing. Of course, you can pair keyboards. I had hoped that my keyboard was going to come today, but it didn't yet. But I've got a wireless keyboard for my tablet, because I find it really annoying to type on the touchscreen on a tablet. On a phone, much easier, because I can hold it here and I can go crazy with my thumbs. On a tablet, it's tink, 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 and it's so slow and annoying. Which brings me to talk to text. How many people use talk to text? Some, not
Sometimes.
all.
Sometimes.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask, and this is just an honest question. Someone who does not use talk to text, tell me why you do not. Joyce.
It sometimes gets it wrong, or if there's background noise, it confuses it.
Okay. Okay. Who else?
I just haven't set it up.
Okay. Anybody else have a different answer?
Yeah, I don't know how to do the punctuation.
Okay. Good answers. Okay. And then Medina had her hand raised. So we'll answer Medina's question
No.
first and then hit those. No?
No question.
So I'm going to start with Bob's, because I love Bob's question. So I'm going to text Amy. And so on my talk to text, I've got my keyboard, and I make sure, so I choose my keyboard. First of all, you know that there are keyboards that you can choose other than the default one for your phone.
Mhm.
I have actually a Microsoft keyboard, because I really liked their choices. But I've on the keyboard that I choose under their choices, I've got the little, I've got the little microphone down here. So I tap on the microphone, and then when I tap on the microphone, back it up, it's actually a press and hold. I start talking, and it's going to happen, period. And it puts the period in. Period. But if I get really excited about something, I'll put in an exclamation point. Exclamation point. He gave me two because I said the word twice. And it's going to keep talking. So, period. Now, I'm going to stop
Betsy,
the
where are
microphone.
you now? I lost track.
Yep, I'm just in my
Betsy?
text. I'm in my text program. In my text program on my keyboard, and on Apple devices, I know it's right there. Let me go to text, and let me text myself. And when I do a text, right there in, and again, one of those ageist things. It is, so on Scott's iPad, there are two options, and he's usually using regular Apple texting. So in the place where I would write, you know, if I were going to type something, at the very end of that is right where my finger is a little microphone. That is for voice. That's a push and hold for voice. But down at the bottom here is his little microphone. So he would do a talk to text using that little microphone on the keyboard. So when I tap on that, I'm going to start talking and it's going to finish the sentence for me, period. And it put the period in. So the main thing that I have found with this, okay, stop, Bob, is that, and everybody else, is that you have to say the punctuation quickly. You can't finish your sentence, long pause, and then go period. Because if you say period after a pause, it's going to write out the word period.
Right.
Which it will do if I'm talking through my car. Sometimes if I'm in a bad cell zone and there's a delay, because I'm in a bad cell zone, it's going to delay what it heard from me. And so it thinks I just said the word period. But if I say the punctuation quickly at the end of a sentence, period, and I keep talking and then there's the end of my sentence, period, I know when the end of my sentence is happening, period. And sometimes, comma, I'm going to pause. You know what I mean? So you just throw it in right away at the end of whatever word, exclamation point that you want, rather than having that gap. And I find it works really, really well. And it takes a little bit of learning to get to know. Background noise, the only time I've found that, Joyce, is if I'm in my car and my radio's on. It will start giving lyrics to the songs in the text. And I have found, you know, I was talking about the delay in punctuation. I just literally need to be in a better cell zone to make that, all of that happen. So I tend not to do it, but I do tend to, if I'm going to answer somebody's text, if I am paired with my car and I'm taking the messages through my car, then it does it fine without any intervention on my part, because of course it's hands-free, as many states are hands-free. And so touching the screen on my car to answer a text, and my helper will say, I'm not even going to say their name. My helper will say, okay, what's the message? And I can speak to it. Then that's super easy, flawless, just the way it happens here. But if I'm not paired with my car and I'm talking to my phone and I'm expecting it to pick it up and I'm in this chamber with noise, then yes, it's going to pick up the songs as well. So I just turn the radio off or turn it down if I'm going to answer somebody's text. I haven't found it to be a problem in a crowded space. You know, if I'm in a restaurant or a store or something like that, I have not found that to be the case of it being too annoying. And, you know, for the most part, if you're doing a text and it's, you know, I'll be there in 5 minutes or on my way or something like that, probably just as easy to text it with your fingers. But if you're giving a long answer to someone, you're on a long, you know, you're doing something and you don't have time for a phone call, or you don't want to call that person, but you want to give them the answer that you want to give them, and it's long. Typing it out is super annoying for me and for many people. If you're 40 and under, I have to adjust now. Not so annoying, you know, because it's just like you watch 40-year-olds type and it's like, oh, that's like epic typing, you know?
How many people have
Exactly.
arthritic thumbs?
Yeah.
Exactly. They've got well lubricated joints there, and so they can make it happen quick. But I can talk faster than they can text. So
Mhm.
Medina.
So along the same lines, with my Mac, my laptop, if I'm typing a document, if I press I think it's function key FN down at the bottom,
Function, yeah.
if I press it twice, then a microphone comes up and I don't have to type. I can just writing a document. But you also have to check because sometimes the spelling's not right. And
Yes.
same thing, if you say period and you haven't said it quickly enough, it'll write out the word period. But
Yeah.
it's great when you're writing a document.
That's awesome. I
Yeah.
am going to test that out and see what the feature is in Google Docs.
Yeah.
See where that is. So you're
Yeah.
pressing and holding function.
No, you press it twice. You tap it
Okay.
twice.
Okay. All right. I will check that out. Thank you for that
Mhm.
tip. I love new tips. So 2 times on the function key for microphone. And
Is
if not,
that-
I'm gonna Google it and find
Yeah.
it.
Was that on the computer or on an iPad?
It's on our Mac.
It's on my
Computer.
MacBook. My
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. That's what I love about this group.
Yeah.
Always getting new good stuff. And if you can teach Joyce something, you've accomplished something for the day. She's so hip all the time. All right, we're going to switch away from this because we have not literally covered half of it. Next week, I'm going to, between now and next week, I'm going to take Scott's iPad and sit on the couch with Scott and get his permission to change all the settings and play with it and really see how it works. But he'll give me permission to do it, and then he'll have to solve it if we can't get out of it. And I'll just say, years ago, when I noticed how difficult it was to see some details and pictures in Instagram, and Instagram at the time, I don't use it much now, but Instagram at the time wouldn't allow you to spread your fingers to look at a picture closer. And so the only way you could look at something was to take a screenshot and use your camera and then use your gallery to spread something out to look at it. And how annoying is that? But I figured out that you could use an accessibility feature that would override Instagram's program and allow you to spread things to look at them better. So I was like, oh, okay. So that's what kind of got me looking at accessibility features in general. So I will play with a bunch of this stuff. In the meantime, I want to jump. We've got just a few minutes left and talk about a couple of things about searching and about AI. So we'll start with the bad news and end with good things. This was in Malwarebytes. 9 million images of people's faces were exposed by a reverse lookup service. It says that a cloud database containing more than 9 million image files were accessible without authentication. Leaky Bucket containing 450 gigabytes of images was traced back to a company called Clarity Check. They use reverse image to identify anyone in a photo, find names, social profiles, and online presence in seconds. And so, people finder tools, things like that, could be problematic. And especially when these things are exposed. Now, I will say there was a very cool documentary series on Netflix that was, and I'm at a loss for the name of it right now, but I'll come up with it. That was very short little vignettes of amazing science things. They were like 20 minutes long. It only did one season, which was very disappointing because I thought it was a fascinating show and did a pretty lighthearted look at science in a non-geeky way and in a way that was very relatable to our everyday lives. And one of the things that stuck with me is their exploration into, and this was way before AI that was really prevalent. So it was probably 4 years ago. And they talked about how facial recognition was being used then and how people's faces literally no longer belong to themselves in terms of the ownership of the image of the face.
Mm.
And I was like, back then, I was like, oh, that's not possible. Is that really happening? You know? And now we know it really is, because our faces are everywhere, you know, from every camera and, you know, going into stores, all of the places that our images are captured. We have no control over that other than to stay in our house, you know, and stay off the computer. So it's kind of like, you know, we have talked many times about privacy and being able to control our own privacy. And that ability is smaller and smaller, to be able to control who has use of our face, which is why, you know, people are getting into trouble by people interposing faces on different bodies and making, you know, sex products, you know, digital sex products of using, you know, a young person's body and putting a famous person's face on it, or, you know, and the ability to change those things and make them look very, very realistic. And it's like, wow, that's horrible. But what if they did it to you and, you know, put images of you, look like it's images of you naked all over the place? Would you want that? You know, even if it were not real and you knew it wasn't real, you still probably wouldn't want that. And nobody should have to deal with it. And it's happening to teenagers a lot. So, you know, for one, it's kind of like, well, nobody wants to look at this body, I promise you. But, you know, but when we think about the effect on our nieces and nephews and grandkids, that's a whole different conversation of being aware about it. So I'm going to send you this article. You know, always it's going to talk about some things that you can do about it. So, you know, don't upload a photo of someone else unless you have permission. Think twice before uploading your own photo. Before you use any service, check its policies on image recognition, deletion, AI model training use, third-party sharing, those kinds of things. And if you find yourself in a search result, save the URL and the screenshots and request delisting from the search service, and seek removal from the original platform site. So always going to be some tips there. We know there are no pictures of Jackie anywhere because she's paying for that service to take care of that for her, which is fabulous. Let's talk about a little bit about chatbots. There's also some things, and this is a great article about, you know, we tend to think of, okay, I'm going to ask a question. And this has been prevalent for a while before people were like, you know, oh, should I really ask this question? You know, you ask, how long does it take for a joint reversal surgery to heal? An innocuous question, you know, not anything very loaded or very privacy related, until it makes me wonder, okay, would that information benefit someone somehow? AI and all of the language learning models, the corporations that have created them exist for one purpose, and that's to make money. So every bit of information makes them money in some way, shape, or form, because that's what they are. They are sellers of money. You know, you go to a fruit stand and they're sellers of fruit. And every time somebody buys a piece of fruit, they make money. Every time somebody uses data, they make money. So remember that anything that you ask a chatbot or AI or Siri or Google or Alexa or whatever, that information is useful to that company. How many people are asking about shoulder surgery? God, I got to change that name. I'm going to call it something else. And so now there's a statistic of how many requested information about this, I'm just going to go out on wild limbs here and just say, okay, so maybe there's like a huge explosion, like millions of people today asked about how this surgery works with millions of queries. All of a sudden, an investor goes, maybe I should start investing in whatever it takes to make this surgery happen, or the devices, or the instruments, or the surgical tools, or whatever. There is money to be had from information as simple as how long does it take a husband's wound to heal? You know what I mean? And so, you can go down some big rabbit holes with that. And this article, we'll talk about it in a very realistic way, that the question that it asks that sticks with me is, if you were in a crowded space that was, let's just say, a theater, okay? Let's say you've gone to the movies and it's pretty quiet, but it's still a preview, so it's okay to talk. And somebody sitting in front of you turns around and goes, hey, it looks like you just got surgery. Can you tell me about that? How weird would that be? It would be super weird, right? None of us would go, yeah, friend, let me tell you all about my surgery. We would not, in a space where everyone could hear, talk about something as private and personal as that, right? I don't think we would. And if we did, we might talk about it in general terms and in hushed tones. Think about chatbots like that. Chatbots are that stranger who turns around in the theater and asks you a question. You ask the question, but that's the result. The information that you give is money is being made off of it. So that's kind of the bad news. Here's the good news. There are ways to search without putting your information out there. And I'm going to share screen and look at these real quick. And I will be sending you the links because it's 9:45. Let me see. Yoga mats are being set up. Hey, Denise.
Hey, I'm interested to hear what you have to say because I'm
All right.
addicted. I'm addicted
So-
to AI.
Okay, well, let's quit that. So here's the first one. Google search operations. So remember when we talked about keyboard operations where you could do like a control C is copy, a control X is cut, control, all those control things for both Mac and PC. But now there's Google search operations, which I did not know anything about. And it tells you exactly what they are. They make your search more precise and focused because they are special commands and characters. So a little bit geeky, a little bit nerdy, but we are tech savvyists, so we kind of like this stuff. And so you can go into this. And so there's explanation at the beginning. But for instance, search operator, we used to use this all the time. When you just want to know about that thing, use quotation marks, search for just that, quotation, Steve Jobs, quotation. When you use that, you're just going to find Steve Jobs, not a million other things about Steve's or Jobs, if you did it without the quotations. And then there's all of this stuff that tells you exactly how to search for something specific versus just general global. And so you can go into a Google search and you can type, and here's the example of how to do it. And I played around with this. So you're looking for a site, a particular website. You go site : no space. The spaces are very important in this. These are exact rules. Apple.com. So you're just going to that site. You're just going to apple.com. If you just do a search for Apple, you're going to get apples, you're going to get all kinds of things, but this is going just to that site. Kind of cool. Tons of them. I'm just going to show you real quickly. There's a ton of them. Lots and lots of information. Play with those. Here's another one. This is specifically for research. This is Google Scholar, which I am sad to say I didn't know existed. But I got this off of an education website. When you are wanting to research something, this is scholar.google.com. stevejobs.com. So you're not doing a wild Google search, you're doing a Google Scholar. So I'm going to very quickly put in Steve Jobs in this site here and do a search. And I'm only going to get articles about Steve Jobs, books, PDFs, very, very specific search, PDFs in his own words from Google Books, all kinds of stuff. And so very, very helpful to actually find what you're looking for versus whatever it is that AI wants to give you. And this helps you control where you're going on the internet, the results that you're finding, and gives you a much more focused attempt at looking at what you're learning. And then very last thing, the easiest way to do, and I'm going to quick share because I see nobody's lying on their mat yet.
No.
Let's
Quiet
go
day.
back to just regular old Google, and you can do this with any search engine that you're doing. I do Steve Jobs, and then I'm going to do a space. I'm going to do the minus sign, and I'm going to do AI. So I am looking for anything about Steve Jobs, but I don't want AI to get involved. And so it does not give me the AI at the top. Now, I will say that sometimes when I do this, it does give me an AI down here somewhere, but this time it did not. And so it literally gave me just things about Steve Jobs. Okay. All I had to do, and this is a habit now that I do pretty much every time, is whatever I'm asking Google for, I do minus AI. Very, very important. The minus sign and the AI are together. And then I get the search without AI being involved. The other option, and of course, this goes into my all search. I can also go to my more, and I can go to web search only. Okay. If I didn't do minus AI and I just go here to web search only and do search, it's going to give me the same result. The problem is if I do AI, if I forget to do the AI, it automatically defaults to all, and it will not allow you to default to web. So if I do a search, you've got to select web first, or you do minus AI. Hopefully that made sense and a really, really quick explanation. Next week, like I said, I am going to play around with some of this accessibility stuff. I hope you do too, and see what you've learned that you're like, oh, I didn't know it would do that for me. How fun is that? And get to play with it a little bit. And I have some new topics. How many people are interested in using any of the online genealogy options? Anybody interested? 1, 2. All right, we'll explore that as a little bit and play around with genealogy. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank
Beth.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
See you
Bye.
all.